Hi, everybody. I want to introduce Fred, and no introduction is really needed. We all know Fred, and we all super excited to be here. I have to tell you a special story, how grateful I am to Fred, and I have known his book back in 2008. And back in 2008, I was on my second startup, super stressed out, super worried about patients, team, overhead, bringing new patients in, and I was new to dentistry, and I had family, husband. It was just, I was so just beyond stressed out. And then I got his book. I was the one, well, actually one of the first people to pre-order his book, and when I got it, I studied it back and front. I studied it and applied every principle to that second startup. Looking back, that startup not only did well, but it's actually had one of the best years. When everybody else was struggling, many offices were closing, and many dentists chose to end doing business. I kept his book in my office as a reminder. And even now, I still have a copy of his book in my office as a reminder. Everything is marketed. And because of his book, every one of my startups, and I'm on a number 7 now, has been really successful. And I contribute a big part of my success to Fred. So I'm super grateful, and I'm super grateful for his book, and I'm super grateful that he agreed to join and to share his wisdom with all of us. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you, Dr. Alderman. It's a pleasure to be here. Taking a break from going to Broadway shows today, but it's always fun to talk about marketing and dental practices and see what I can do to keep people up to speed on how to create a remarkable patient experience and create a remarkable practice.
I wanted to ask you, so when I was preparing for the meeting, I wanted to ask Fred to talk about an abundance mindset, because it's really hard for many of us at this time. And as an owner of a multi-location practice, I can relate to many dentists saying that it is challenging. We have a difficult time finding great employees. We have a difficult time dropping PPOs. We have a difficult time dealing with increase in supplies. We are faced with so many challenges, and it's really hard to remain positive and to look at the dentistry as a field of abundant opportunities. So what I would love to take you and take on that, and would love to have your wisdom and inspire us to just to look at the dentistry as a field full of abundant opportunities.
Yeah, and a good part of it is in terms of industries, we have dentistry is one of the few industries that is grossly underutilized by the general public. It's a the average number of the population they estimate is about 50% goes on a pretty regular basis, which means once a year, not necessarily twice or the 3 times they probably should be going. And so that would be like if we were in the car business and half the population was still riding bicycles. We have tons of opportunity. Now, certainly not everybody can afford dentistry, but we've been given this opportunity with COVID where people have shifted a lot of their priorities from stuff and that they were spending money on to their health. And this is our opportunity to really do the oral systemic connection in people's minds, because they were so much more focused on their breath and what was coming through their mouth. And we can say, yeah, guess what? Your mouth is part of your body, and it's integral to staying healthy the rest of your life. That's why we're here. And if the insurance companies aren't going to pay for it, that's irrelevant. And just like if when people always say stuff like, well, I only want to do what my insurance pays for. And I say to them, so Do you only do the things and fix the things on your car that are under warranty? I mean, if it needs brakes and they're not under car warranty, do you just keep driving without ever fixing the brakes, or do you fix the brakes? You have to invest in your body to keep it healthy. And unfortunately, healthcare is not interested in paying for you to fix your teeth. So you're going to have to pay to fix your teeth. So there's all of these opportunities if you just help people to shift. If we move people from fearing dentistry or lowering the value of it to bringing its value up to where it belongs, there's nothing but abundance. And I have talked to so many doctors who actually had a great year in 2020, and they're having a great year now. I know doctors who are booked 2-3 months out right now. They're saying, I have to stop advertising because I'm wasting it. And I say, yeah, you need to stop throwing money at advertising, because if you can't get somebody in the next 3 days, you're wasting your money. So they said, yeah, so that's we're having trouble getting our own patients in. So there's tons of opportunity, and there's technology that's coming out that's making dentistry faster, more comfortable for patients, and can make it more affordable for patients. And as soon as you make things more affordable, it opens up another whole opportunity. That's why Smile Direct Club, as crappy a product as it is, had so much success, because it opened the bottom of the clear aligner market that didn't exist before. And a whole bunch of people said, oh, I would pay $1,000 to get braces, even though that's not really what they're getting. They're not really getting, for the most part, real orthodontics. But that's, as soon as you become more affordable, the market gets wider, because the average American has $1,000 in the bank and is living paycheck to paycheck. The average American income is less than $50,000, the median income for the family. So there isn't a lot of excess cash, but people spend money on things that are a priority. If they find the money, they get boob jobs, they find the money to do stuff like that because it's important to them. They get chrome wheels on their car because why not? It makes the car so much better. Even though they can't even see the chrome wheels, they're sitting inside the car most of the time. So if we help people to appreciate the value of dentistry for what it is, it becomes an extremely abundant profession. And one of the things we'll probably talk about later, Kathryn, is the unique business model, financial model that dentistry is, which is very advantageous once you break through a certain level of production.
That actually brings me to my next question, and I will combine a few questions at once. Because of your book and because of all the principles that I have applied, I actually cannot advertise anymore. I may not accept any more new patients, and we're talking about multiple locations. So my next goal would be to drop some insurances, and that would also help me not to need to hire so many hygienists. But when you say make a dentistry more affordable, please, can you talk more about it, making dentistry more affordable? When I hear making dentistry more affordable, to me, it's to take all the PPO plans that I can do to offer discounts. And to me, when I hear make dentistry more affordable, to me, that means that taking more insurance plans. Could you explain what do you mean by making dentistry more affordable, and how should we proceed with PPO plans, or even maybe not to access many plans?
Yeah, so it's two different questions, really. Making dentistry more affordable means using technology. Let's say if you can use cone beam technology, and it allows you to fully restore a single tooth implant in one visit, you don't have to get $4,500 a tooth. You can get $2,500 a tooth and still make $2,000 in the 2.5 hours that it takes you. So that's what I mean about using dentistry to make it more affordable. If you use CAD/CAM technology, if you have something like CEREC, now you're not doing a temporary on the tooth, and you're not coming in, bringing them in 2 weeks later or 3 months later, whenever they show up, and taking that temporary off, probably using shots and drills. Nobody gets paid to take temporaries off and finish the tooth. It's one price for the crown. So when you do it in one visit, you've done it in significantly less time with less material. So you don't have to get $1,400 a crown to still make $400 a crown. That's what I'm saying is you can maintain your profit level while dropping the actual cost of the patient. Now, does that mean you work with insurance companies? Only if they are paying you enough. But dentists are so afraid of dropping a plan, they say, I'm going to lose all of these patients. The data just doesn't support that. If you do it properly, if you notify them and say, the reason we're not accepting this plan is because it doesn't allow us to treat you at the level at the standard we use for care in this practice. And it is only a discount plan for certain care with a limit on it every year. It is not health insurance. It is nothing like health insurance. It is a discount plan on some basic care. That's all it is. And they are reducing the amount they pay us to the point where we can no longer treat you the way we need to treat you. And what happens is you lose some patients, but you open up your schedule to full fee-for-service patients. Because you'll find, if you analyze what you're making, and that's what you have to do, you analyze each plan and say, are we breaking even on this, or are we at a 5 or 10% margin, profit margin? Why do that? Open up your schedule, and if you dip temporarily and start to fill it with people that are paying full fee for service. And you have to look at the demographics of your area. You have to look at your own patient base. So if you're 90% insurance based, don't trim all the plans off in an afternoon. Look at the worst one and trim it off, and allow it yourself to recompensate. But don't and incorporate membership plans. Membership plans are subscription plans that work perfectly well, keep the patient captive, and actually bring them in more often. So you can have a comprehensive approach to dropping your plans. There was a time when people were dropping all their plans back in 2000, and then they realized that things were getting tough. In 2008, 2009, they started to put plans back on. And then the dental insurance companies realized that they had them. And now they're taking advantage of them. They're not, in my mind, out to benefit the dentist. The irony is that dental insurance companies were formed by dentists as nonprofit organizations so that more patients could get care. And now it's just turned into a very profitable nonprofit organization where the executives keep the money, essentially. And the dentists get less and less money all the time, to the point where it's impractical. So work less, make more money, treating people at the level of care you want. Otherwise, people are actually getting if they're using their insurance to dictate the care, you can't even give them the care that you, in good conscience and then as a professional, know you should be giving them.
That's actually wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you for saying that. One point I will take home and start, and I will talk to all of my doctors on Mondays, that it's okay to make dentistry more affordable. If somebody needs 8 to 10 to 12 crowns, it's okay to give a discount and make it more affordable. And we really should be doing more of that. So I really like that point. Thank you. I have to share very great points that you made in a book, and I have been using it as well. Last week, I was training quite a few people in the dentistry, and I used your line from a book. I used your line when you say, It's unethical to tell patients it's okay for insurance maximums to renew. It's unethical to tell it to patients that have cavities, gum disease, to say that it's okay for the insurance to renew. And I love that you said it, because it gave me tools to communicate to the team, to the financial team that doesn't have a dental experience, that doesn't have a business skills. And it was a very easy way to communicate, saying it's unethical to say to a patient, because we cannot do that, because we tell the patient it's okay for this disease to progress. And I love that point. Can you please maybe expand more on that?
Yeah, and it's unethical is one way to look at it, but the other thing is just look at it from a clinical standpoint. There is no situation, no clinical situation in the patient's mouth that makes sense to do later. It's all there is no benefit to the patient to delay any of the care that they need. It always gets worse. They lose more tissue, they get more infection, they get more gum recession, whatever, and it probably is going to cost more, hurt more, and do more damage to have to fix the tooth. There is no upside to the patient, except, oh, well, the insurance will pay for it next year, so let's just wait. But that's just being too afraid to actually present the dentistry that's appropriate for the patient, because you don't want to come off as trying to make a lot of money. Well, the reality is, if you're projecting that you're trying to make more money, then that's the mistake you're making. That's a communication and presentation skill. You need to communicate that you care about the patient, and that's why you're doing it. It's not because you want to make more money. It's as soon as that is their experience, they don't trust you, and they don't believe anything you say, or they're not going to do anything. We don't buy from people we don't trust. And so you have to say, look, you don't have to do this now, but it is my professional responsibility to tell you that now is the optimal time to do it. And we can always scale back what we do, but it is reducing the efficacy of that treatment. I am not doing what I should be doing. I'm doing what you can afford, which is, it's like buying used tires for your car because you need new tires. Yeah, that sort of solves the problem, except you're going to need new tires again a lot sooner, and you could get a blowout and get in an accident. And this is your body. My concern is, my professional responsibility as a dentist is to tell you what you need to keep your teeth healthy. And if I don't tell you that, then I'm not doing my professional duties. So it's not like I need to make money. I don't need the money. It's not going to change my life. But if you were my brother-in-law, I'd be twisting your arm and saying, look, you need to do this, Joe. You need to get going on this. There's no upside to waiting. Hang on, I got to close the curtain because suddenly the sun came out through the window here, which is, you can see on the channel.
What time is it in Manhattan?
Well, I guess it's the sun is setting over Manhattan, but it's not quite setting. It's like 6:30.
While you're doing it, I will just share how often I train my people. I have a very intensive training for my teams. And even with the intensive trainings that I provide to my teams, I just find out that I have one scheduling person that was telling patients, hey, you reached your maximum insurance, let's wait. So it's very common for the dentist to present the treatment for the business team, but for the business team not to communicate it correctly. So I just wanted to really, again, to say thank you for giving me that line, because now when I talk to the teams and when I train them, I explain them the value of a dental treatment. I teach my dental teams to understand how the disease progresses, and I really tell them in a very kind way, but that it's not kind, and it's actually unethical to let people wait on the insurance. So I give them skills, and I teach them to present finances confidently without worrying about the insurance or limitations. And I teach them that you have to present it. So thank you for that. Moving on, I will keep doing it because when I tried it last week, it was very successful. It was very successful.
Yeah, well, and I think it's if a non-clinical person is giving clinical advice to a patient, that's completely wrong. They need to know that in my mind, you're on probation for doing that. It's like that is not your job to when you tell people they don't have to get treated now, they can wait till their insurance kicks in. You are making a medical recommendation that you are not qualified and you were not hired to do.
Yes.
It's really important to get clear on people with that. It's like, no, you don't get to do that. And one, you're wrong. Two, that's not your job, and that is not your licensing.
Yes, and you would be surprised how often, as I said, even in my offices, with all the training and everything that we do, just last week I find out that there was a person in one of the locations that was stating that. So that's thank you for that. I want to ask you another question that brings another question. It's kind of ties into everything we talked about it. In your book, you say your true competitors are not other dentists. There are Sony, Mercedes-Benz, and Las Vegas. I always said it because every time I would open locations, everybody would tell me, you're crazy. You have 2 dental schools. You have a small town. You have so much competition. So everyone would always tell me, you have so much competition, how you can compete? And I would always use your line and saying it in my head, well, it's really my true competitors are not Sony, or not those are dentists, but it's the Disney cruise and Las Vegas and all other big brands. And even so, but what I want to ask you, what would you say? How do you compete with them? Because for example, when I try to propose dentistry, let's say on a social media or via YouTube, if I try to tell how fabulous dentistry is and what kind of benefits we can bring to improve patients' health, we don't get a lot of engagement on a social media. We don't get a lot of, people don't get excited about dentistry as much. So how can we make that message clear? It's probably tough, but how can we make it more exciting? How can we be more competitive in our message, in our marketing message, so we compete with, Disney Cruise and Mercedes-Benz and Apple phones and all of that?
Well, it's a steady process of reminding people of the value that dentistry brings relative to other things that they're spending money on, because that's what they don't do. They think this is a fun way to spend money, to go to Las Vegas, to buy a high definition TV, to get a new car, these are, to get a fancy handbag, or, do whatever they're doing with their money. That's fun stuff. But it doesn't have a long-term value, and humans have trouble thinking long-term, and we have to understand that that's not our nature. And dentistry is a long-term benefit. And that's what you have to remind them. You have to say, dentistry is one of the best investments you can make. If you need $5, $10, $15, $20, $30, $40,000 worth of dentistry, there's no better way to spend that money in reality. That will affect every meal, every conversation, every kiss for the rest of your life. So that and that's what your team all has to understand and communicate, that this is a great investment. And a lot of times they haven't reminded themselves of the truth, or they haven't acquainted themselves with the reality of that. And so that's why they would do something like, oh, you don't have to do it now. No, this is what they need to invest. They need to find the money to do this, just like they would find the money for a new transmission for their car. They're not going to drive that, if their car's running out of oil, They're not going to say, geez, I don't really want to buy oil this month. Maybe I'm going to wait a couple more months. They're going to need a new engine. So I'm falling into the car analogies over and over again, but that's how, people say, oh no, I have to do this. I have to do this for my car. Yes. And you have to do this for your body too, because you're going to want to eat and you're going to want to stay healthy and you're going to want to prevent heart disease and stroke and all the other things that are directly linked to an unhealthy mouth. And when the whole team knows it, believes it, and communicates it, that's when the patients start to get converted. That's when the understanding comes in. And so it just becomes that type of communication. Just talk specifically about the long-term value. And you understand, it's a lot easier to think about spending money on fun stuff, but not all the stuff you spend money on is fun.
That's fabulous.
Sometimes it's to live longer and to, because what's really fun? Being healthy at 60, 70, 80 years old or 50.
Yes. And I have to say, that's actually something else you taught me. In one of our recent conversations, you told me, Kathryn, engage to engage. And I would love to share about it because I tried it and it was wonderful. And what I say by that is that engage to engage. We talk about communicating with our team. We want our team to be our best communicators and speak that message to our patients. We want them to speak that message. We want them to keep educating patients, and we want our team to be excited about the lives that we change and the lives we improve. But at the same time, we need to engage them first before they become engaged to deliver that message. So that was a really big pivotal point that you changed for me when you told me engage to engage. I went back to my offices, and instead of putting up a PowerPoint and going over what a cavity is, or how do we replace a tooth, and why do we need to tell this to the patient, I engage them. I explain to them, hey, this is what a cavity is. This is what a gum disease is. This is how it can impact our patients. This is how it impacts the overall health. And then I told them, we change lives by making them healthier, but at the same time, we are smile makers and a confidence builders. And after talking to you, I started doing a series of morning meetings where I would tell them life-changing stories that patients experienced at one of our locations. So engage to engage was the best advice you have given me in order to deliver that message and to get my entire team excited about helping patients. And that's, if you can share a little bit, because you really changed the way I teach and inspire my team. And if you can share that wisdom with everybody else, I know they will appreciate it.
It's so important to just remind them that what they're doing has a profound effect on people's lives, but there's a professional responsibility associated with it, because we need to be talked into doing what we should do, whether it's eating right or exercising or saving money or taking care of your teeth and seeing a doctor on a regular basis, doing all of those things. There's a great message that means so much in terms of dentistry as well, is that a healthy person has 1,000 dreams, an unhealthy person has only one.
I love it.
And that's what we do. We are keeping them healthy by keeping their mouth healthy. We are a cornerstone. We are integral to their health, and they can pretend that it isn't, because teeth seem really tough and gums seem to heal and nerves retreat when they hurt after a while. But our job is to keep them healthy by taking care of their soft and hard tissue in their mouth. And that's how you can inspire the team.
I love that you shared that with me, because really marketing is everything. Everything is marketing, and engaging the team to deliver that message was one of the things that will make a huge difference for that message to be competitive on my locations. And that's sharing that message with my team and educating my team and engaging them on how they help patients to be healthier, that's what will help me to be competitive with a Disney cruise, with Las Vegas and Mercedes-Benz and all of that. So thank you for that. That's another thing that I'm super grateful to you for. Talking about teams, everything is marketing. Team is obviously one of our most important things we can do for marketing. We truly, when we talk about marketing, I always think about team being a crucial part of that process. We are short on help. We are short on help, and many of us don't have enough help and have challenges to hire people. In your book, you say that even if you have good people, if you have a good people, engage them, keep them happy. But if you have a C team players, you have to let them go. Can you expand more on that?
Yeah, with this what we call the C player. You know, if you're ranking people as A, B, or C players, A players are always they're doing a great job. They're trying to get better all the time. That's who they are. B players are not great at their job, but they're getting better at their job, and they want to get better at their job. C players are clock punchers, and they in the end, it's a job. It's not a calling. It's not a profession. Uh, you're not. They're not caring about the impact. And when you're building a team, when you're creating practice culture, you have to have everybody aligned and pulling in the same direction, or it's not fair to the A players. And when you have a strong culture that says, look, everybody's going to do what's expected of them, and we're going to be clear about what those expectations are, and but overall, our job is to give the best care possible to our people and to support each other in getting that done. Not just saying, "Oh, I don't do that. That's not. I don't clean instruments. I don't pick up trash off the floor if I see it. That's not my job. That's the janitor's job. You should. I always look at somebody who can walk by junk on the floor as somebody who just is willing to do an average job of whatever they're doing. Um, and so you will, it's challenging because we had a bunch of people who retired during 2020 and decided not to come back. But this is a temporary thing where people are going to realize that the job that they switch to or staying at home is suddenly they're running out of money. And or they're bored to death. Or they can't look at their husband for one more minute. And it's like, I got to go back to work. But I've always found that the dentists who create a great place to work never have staff problems in terms of they can always recruit. Because they have a great place to work. The dentist with high turnover, the dentist needs to look at himself or herself and say, why am I turning over staff? I'll tell doctors all the time, if you got staff turnover at a certain level, it's time to start looking at you. And what are you doing? Get a coach. Find out what the heck it is you're doing that is poor leadership. Because you're not building a team, you're not inspiring people, you're not expressing appreciation, you're not doing any of the things that make people happy to go to work. And obviously, you want to compensate them, but you say, look, when this practice succeeds, you get bonused. That's how this business works. So that's why everybody needs to be a strong player on the team, or we really can't have you here. A lot of dentists get in this thing of like, oh, we're like a family. It's like, no, don't be like a family. Be like a sports team. Okay. In family, you got to keep the idiot cousin around no matter what. But in a sports team, you get the right player in the right position all the time. And if they stop playing well, you replace them. Because that's what you have, and you owe it to all the other players on the team that put somebody strong with them. And it takes time to recruit, but it has to be a cultural fit. How people work together as a team is critical. in the dental industry because the team is doing so much to create that remarkable patient experience. And it's too small an ecosystem to have one or two people who are not pulling in the same direction or not pulling their weight or bringing in a bad attitude. Because all it takes is one person to turn everybody's attitude in the wrong direction.
Thank
I
you
could
so
do an
much.
hour on Teams, obviously.
Oh, me too. Me too. That's really, and I do have to say, I have had so much experience that I had to let some negative C plus players go, and the team was so thankful for making it happen that they would actually bring me referral. They would bring me somebody that would be just a fabulous new team player. So even though I was afraid to let somebody go, it's always pays off because I get a new team member and my team is actually willing to step up and help because they're so glad that this C player is gone.
Yeah, they'll cover for them. They'll say, "Oh yeah, please let her go. We'll find a way until we find the right person. We'll cover whatever she was doing." But yes, and
Yeah.
the other thing that happens that, and I've talked to hundreds of businessmen that confirm this, is when you let that person go, it was actually always worse than you thought. Because then people go, by the way, she was also not doing this, or she was doing that, and we didn't want to rat her out, but and you just the infection is always deeper after the when you finally do the extraction.
Yes. And it's really, I love that point, and I have been practicing that. And sometimes we may not have to let them go. Sometimes we may have to wait a few weeks, but we should always have a plan to let that C player go on our time. But it's always brings positive results. So moving on to marketing, we have quite a few questions about marketing. Would you like to talk about how abundant dentistry, in a sense that we have 10 to 15% profit margin and not like many other businesses out there, and that really that magic number is 600, and I still think 600 is a magic number even in this economy. I find that 600 is really easy to reach, and once you reach 600 you're really close to that million in collections as well.
Yeah, the uniqueness of the dental business model is something that's really exciting and wonderful. It's actually ranked as the number one most profitable industry because of this, because it has such high fixed expenses and such low variable expenses. Your variable expenses are your consumables and your lab costs. And so once you get to a certain level, when you've cracked your nut, so to speak, you've beaten your overhead for the month, every bit of production that you do is at an 80% profit margin, because you've covered your rent, you've covered your leases, you've covered your insurances, you've covered your team expenses for the most part. Nobody's working at 100%, and the schedule is not full yet. So once the schedule is full, obviously you have to make some corrections to either add an associate or add an office, do whatever, or drop an insurance plan. If you're at full capacity in your schedule, that's the time to really take a hard look at your plan and say, where are we not profitable? Where are we working really hard to lose money? And not be able to see people that really want to accept full treatment. So where was I? I went in two directions here, and I want to go
That's
back
okay.
to your original. Yeah.
That's okay. About 600, and that question.
Oh yeah.
Really
Yeah. So just keep in mind that
yeah.
when you break that 600,000 in production a year, or 50,000 a month or whatever, you're generally covering your overhead and all of your costs. If you add 10,000, 20,000 a month in revenue, in production into that practice, you can easily keep 70% of it, possibly 80% of that as profit, which means now you can bonus people. Now you can buy more technology. Now you can do more advertising if you need to, or you just have made more money. But a lot of dentists are stuck cracking their nut every month, so they don't realize it. And it's why they come from this scarcity standpoint, is they don't realize how easily the problem gets solved in dentistry versus a lot of other businesses. My business, 800 dentists, we ran at a 15% profit margin. It was that at $10 million in revenue, it was at 15%. At $50 million a year in revenue, it was at 15%. That's true of most businesses. And a lot of times their profit shrinks when they are expanding, because you create a lot more employees and more hierarchy in the business, and it becomes harder to make the same level of profit. Whereas in dentistry, you have to be really careless to if you can increase your revenue by 20%, to not be able to keep a large percentage of it. We have Ariella Pino just said my Super Bowl book changed her life. So Ariella, I really appreciate that. Thank you for that. I'm glad that it did it. That's what I'm trying to do. That is my major purpose in life now, is to help people to be more bold and confident.
Well, and you're really helping a lot of us. And that moves on to external marketing section, because we have a lot of questions about external marketing. And really, you answered, should you offer discounts to attract new patients? You answered some of it, but a lot of dentists want to know, should we put in Facebook ads, or should we be doing some kind of a ad to offer discounts to attract new patients? I personally never do that based on your advice. And may you please share your feedback about it?
And I think it's one thing, your social media that you're not paying for, all of that, the posting that shows what it's like to be a patient of yours, which is patient testimonials, charitable things that you're doing, patient of the week, all sorts of stuff like that. And some of the services that you offer, some of that can be in social media. But if you're going to advertise in social media, many times you need some kind of offer, whatever the heck it is, because that's what people are looking for $500 off on Invisalign, a free exam on implants, a new patient offer. You have to decide if a new patient offer is going to work for you, but most of the time that is what people are looking for, and I think that needs to be part of what you have in your Google and Yelp profiles and on your Facebook page. They need to know that there is, because it's worth it to get a new patient. People spend $200, $300, $400 in advertising to get a new patient. If you're in Beverly Hills, it's costing you $400 in advertising a new patient, because it's so competitive. So to offer a discount is just part of the marketing cost. And look at the long-term value of the patient. That's how you have to see it, is what are they going to spend over the next 10 years? How many people are they going to bring to the practice over the next 10 years? Ideally, they bring most of the new patients they bring in 3 years. So, and the average person, when you give a remarkable patient experience, brings 5 more people in those 3 years. So there's a huge bonus to offering that to get them in. And then it's you move them off of discount into, you don't want to stay with that and discount stuff all the time, but you can't be afraid of it. But if you're offering a discount on everything, increase the price. My dentist, all his veneer cases, he presents at $25,000, and it's always, but for you, I'm going to take 10% off of that. Now, what he wants is he wants $22,000 for the case, so he prices it at 25 and offers a discount. So people are like, "Oh, I got it. I'm one of the great patients. I get a discount." That's all. But you don't want to be discounting everything as a way of them, like the basic dentistry. You don't want them to see you as a discount house. But but a lot of times on social media, you have to attract people.
That's a really good point, because a lot of times when I opened my first startup and I would offer a lot of discounts, like a new patient exams or maybe special coupons for new patient exams, I would get a lot of price shoppers, and they would actually leave and move on to the next discount, move on to the next dentist that would offer discounts for their cleanings. So there should be just a fine line. And hearing you speaking about it, I can hear that there is a place to offer discounts, but being careful to avoid those price shoppers.
Yeah, because that's a lot of, I'm a big believer in that word of mouth is always going to be the most important way you attract patients. And I think it's even more important now because it's getting harder and harder to spend money on advertising effectively. There are all these outlets that have disappeared: print, yellow pages, television. We lived off television with 800 dentists. We would go out of business if we tried to do it now, because it just wouldn't attract enough patients. And wouldn't we? It's still, the business still exists. I don't own it, but it's all emergency calls at this point. And so you want to know that what you're projecting out there is not discount dentistry. But you want people to find you because of the patient experience. That should be driving your practice. Is just giving. So and actually, it's a combination of two things in my mind, and it goes back to engaging, but it's engaging with the community. Have your whole team involved in the community in as many ways as possible, and word of mouth, by asking for referrals and do the kind of things that help people understand the value of dentistry and your dentistry and why it's unique. Those two things are almost all you need, and that's what's happening to you, Kathryn. Is your practices are full because they've become self-propelled. Yes. But community engagement is incredibly effective because it's a relationship that's started. Not when somebody comes to you for a discount, it is a retail transaction. It is not even a healthcare transaction. That's, they don't go to their doctor and say, "Can I get a discount? I'm getting my appendix out and I'm price shopping."
Yes. I love those points. This is really good. Even for me, it's really good to hear, because I completely got away from discounts. I got away from making dentistry affordable. So it's a really good points for me to hear. And moving on, I will definitely apply it starting Monday. Talking about social platforms, so many of them. There are so many of them, and we have to do omni-channel marketing. What are your top 2 platforms that you would say we should use to get the best engagement and the best search engine optimization results?
So Facebook is still a very strong marketplace. Instagram is coming up as a marketplace as younger audience uses it. But keep in mind that the fastest growing audience on Facebook is people over 60. So that's still a good marketplace. But you have to do effective content creation in any of these. I wouldn't waste any time on LinkedIn or in Pinterest or in TikTok. The only reason you would do Twitter is for the SEO. It's not going to get you patients. And actually, most of the stuff that you're doing on Facebook or Instagram is not to get you patients. It's to create an impression about your practice. And then your website is going to do the work most of the time. Your website has to have a good modern look. It's got to come up really well in the search. And you have to pay for SEO. SEO is a combination of changing, you're making sure your content is changing, but also making sure it's all playing in the right places and structured the right way. And it's changing constantly, because even how Google looks at mobile right now, they have decided that if your website doesn't play well on a cell phone, then they're going to de-rank your website everywhere on every device. So that's a fairly new thing, but it's a moving target. It moves faster than you can keep up with it. So you need help. You need a good SEO agency. You need a good web builder, and you should need to know that your website is a work in progress. 10 years ago, you built a website. You kept it 3, 4, 5 years the way it was. It's not the way it is anymore. You got to have new content finding its way on your website all the time, and it's got to look really modern. And it's got to, maybe you got to have live chat. Maybe you got to have online scheduling right there, because people are looking for instant gratification. And somebody was asking, in the chat about where to spend money. And what I say is spend money everywhere where it works, because you have to test it. You have to, I would always start with Google Ads, because that's the biggest marketplace, but only when you've got a really good website and as much functionality and as little friction as possible to make an appointment and get in all the information they need on your website. If you've got a thing that says schedule an appointment, and it opens a box that would have to give their name and email and phone number, that's not scheduling an appointment in people's minds. That's just irritating. So if you got scheduled an appointment on, they better be able to schedule an appointment. You need, there's way too many good online, Simplify and companies like that all have great online platforms that won't mess your schedule up. You can put all sorts of controls in it. But it's an open table world. People are looking for instant gratification. So I would spend money on Google first, measure what happens. You have to track it and go for 3 months. Don't go for 2 weeks and say I didn't work, and don't spend $200. You got to invest in it. You got to spend $500 to $1,000 a month in a channel to find out how it's working. If it's working, dial it up till it levels off. Then look at Facebook. Look at Yelp, depending on your area. Some areas Yelp is very heavily utilized, and other areas people don't use it at all. It's really bizarre. So just know your area. And then there are the number of opportunities start to shrink, sponsoring, Little League and stuff like that. That's just a waste of money. You're much better off doing any sort of community event that you can get involved in is great, but be there as a physical presence where you're engaged with people and meeting people. That's valuable. But if Yelp is working and you've got a decent number of reviews, Yelp works in your area, then I would test Yelp. And for most of this stuff, you need an agency, because nobody knows how to do it. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to do this myself." So you have to find one of the 2 or 3 or 4 really good agencies, because there's a million. I'm on LinkedIn. Every week somebody writes to me and says, I can get you more patient leads. They haven't even read my profile enough to figure out I'm not a dentist. So that's how dumb they are. That sounds like, yeah, you really know how to generate leads. You can't even figure out I'm not a lead. So there's all these high school kids that have figured out how to generate Google leads, which is really easy. You buy ads, but you need somebody that's going to do it and track it. And obviously, if you can find a company that's building your website at the same time, they're making sure that the website is doing its part when you create the advertising. But in a really small town, you can do radio. You may even be able to do cable TV. But I would be really tracking that closely, and that's to me is gambling money, and it may just work. Otherwise, direct mail still works. It's worth testing. It's an expensive way to get patients, but in some areas, still works really well, especially if it's new movers. And I look at, for dentistry, new movers is for 6 months they moved in, because people don't roll into town and say, I need a new dentist right away. They say, I need a vet. I need a pediatrician. And later on, they decide on a dentist. If they're single, it's 2 years, right, when they move, because they think they're going home to their old dentist. They just figure out eventually they're not. So
That's
we're getting down to the last 5 minutes here, so we need a juicy question.
Me, it's a juicy question. Let me see. You actually answered quite a lot of them. One, again, you answered a lot of them. How to? What about emails? What about? Let's talk about emails. And the reason I want to talk about emails because as a dentist, traditionally we use emails to send a newsletter and to send the confirmation reminders. But emails have the biggest investment, return on investment. And actually, with emails, we can keep educating our patients, we can keep promoting our services. Can you talk a little bit about the power of emails and how it's underutilized in the industry?
Yeah, because what you have is your patient list. You have their emails that you can communicate with and just remind them of the value of dentistry and the services that you offer. When a lot of dentists say, well, no, I already told people that I have this. I already told them I do Invisalign or clear aligners. So, why do you think Toyota still advertised? Does anybody not know Toyota sells cars? And yet, every time you look at TV, they're selling cars. It's because until we care, we're not listening. So email is this opportunity to do free informational promotion about your dentistry, the quality and uniqueness of your dentistry, and make it personal. Say, the whole team was very excited. We had a patient. She was 90 years old and she decided to get implants. And it just turned out to be a great case. She was so tired of wearing dentures. She was losing weight, whatever. You tell a story like that every month. You got a story. I know you do every month. Tell an anonymous, you anonymize it to not violate their HIPAA, but you can tell a story like that. Somebody came in and realized that missing one tooth was affecting their gums, and the gums were receding, and we did an implant and we got it done in one single visit. And a lot of people think implants take 6 months or a year and it hurts and you got to eat baby food the whole time. It's just not true. Another patient went to a hair salon and got her teeth whitened, and they came back all spotty. And they wondered why. And we explained that a hair salon is technically not a dental practice. Yeah. So you can do those things very easily. Nice short stories that talk about how you create your dentistry. And they'll have an aha moment. Now, they may or may not read it. The shorter it is, the better. The more engaging it is as a story, rather than, hey, we bought this new technology and it's, we want you to know how great it is. Yeah, that sounds kind of interesting, but I don't need it right now, so I don't care. I don't care that you've got a laser and it's great for treating gum disease. I don't have gum disease. And you're thinking, yes, you do. You just don't know it yet.
And if you have
that's the power of email is people read it.
They do. And one last minute that we have left with you. I love the point about negative reviews. You talk about the importance of Google page, optimizing your Google page, updating your Google page, collecting positive reviews. But also you say that you will receive negative reviews. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. And make it a chance to make an ad for your practice. And I've been doing it, and I always use it as an ad for my practice. But can you please explain to the dentist, because everybody is really afraid of HIPAA regulations and breaking HIPAA regulations, but there is always a good way of promoting your practice in was responses to negative reviews. Can you share your wisdom on that?
Yeah, and I talk about it in the book in detail, like dealing with negative reviews, and you don't violate HIPAA. You don't talk about the case, and you don't necessarily even know who the patient is. So when somebody says, oh, they overcharged me for this and something like that, and I didn't really need it, and I went to another dentist and she told me I only had one cavity, and the way to respond is not to respond to the review, is to respond to the reader. and we'll say, we're sorry this person had this experience at our practice. That's not how we want anybody to feel about our dentistry. And so we would do anything we could to correct this situation, but sometimes people don't appreciate how the cost to do the appropriate care for their dentistry is, or they don't value that care. We have a high standard of care in our practice, and that we hold ourselves to, and we do that as affordably as possible. So that's what you hear what I'm doing. I'm just writing an ad because somebody read the negative review, and they want to understand that you read it and you responded to it. And when you do that, you don't go, well, this person just doesn't want to take care of their teeth, and that's, and like this, we're not even sure this is a patient of ours and stuff like that. Those are all terrible responses. So, and I go into more detail in my book on that, but and the last thing I just want to remind people, one of the most powerful marketing tool you have besides your team, okay, which is your most powerful marketing tool, is that to have patient testimonial videos. Just 30 seconds recorded on a phone. You can put them on Facebook and Instagram, on your website, on YouTube, and show them to your team members in a huddle and say, this is what people are saying about us, and compile them into video testimonials. It's so persuasive. It's more persuasive than anything because it's a person talking about what it's like to be a patient in your practice. And it's totally believable. It's more believable than any ad you could ever write.
Thank you so much, Fred. This has been fabulous, even for somebody like me that has been practicing the principles in your book and understands marketing and has a lot of marketing techniques implemented in each one of my locations. I have learned a lot from you today. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. And thank you to everybody who joined us tonight on this Saturday. We're really thankful. Thank you. And if you guys have questions, we couldn't answer all the questions in a bot, in a chat bot. You can, what is the best way to contact you? Or do you want them to email me? And then I can...
They can email you, or, go to fredjoyal.com. There's a way to email me through that. You can find a lot more information there, and it's the best way to order the book. If you want a digital version of my books, Amazon is fine. If you want a hardcover, it's better to go through my website, go into the dental services part of the website.
Yes. And congrats on writing another book. And thank you again, Dave. Thank you for taking time today with us.
Thank you, everyone, for taking your time. And thank you, Kathryn, for having me. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.